Hello, my name is host Eric, and welcome back to a very exciting second episode of 20-sided die intertype relations craps. It's a gambling game. You can gamble with your friends right now. Pause this video. You can gamble on what number is going to come up, okay? It's highly recommended whenever anything random happens, you gamble on it. 1, that's ENTP. And 3, that's ESFJ. Well, that's an easy one. That's easy. That's the easiest one ever. But it'll be interesting looking at it from a Socionics intertype relations model. So I'm gonna once again turn off the camera briefly. We're gonna look here at this document, and we're gonna see that the ENTP and ESFJ, that's going to be right here, activity partners. So the activity partners are ones who are going to motivate the other one to achieve. Okay, and we'll talk about why that's the case right now. So for the ESFJ, we are looking at a cognitive function stack of FESI, NETI. And so they're in the same quadrant as the ENTP. They're quadramates. And that makes us a pretty good match right off the bat, usually. We're not going to hate our quadrant mates for the most part because we have the same conscious functions in a different order. So even if we think they're wrong, we understand why they're wrong. They don't just seem insane to us. Like if you got somebody who's you're convinced is wrong and they've got totally opposite cognitive functions, or they're basing their decision on a function you don't have in your conscious stack, it makes it difficult for people to bridge that gap. But when quadrant mates have all 4 cognitive functions that are conscious in the same 4 but in a different order, then it makes communication a lot easier. So the ESFJ is a quadrant mate of the ENTP, and as I said, the ESFJ goes FESI NETI, the ENTP goes NETI FESI. So basically, it's almost the right type for the ENTP, but not quite. And the reason for it is with the way that it's set up is the ESFJ dominant FE followed by tool function SI. You're talking about a crafter, scrapbooker, party planning, organizing thing, picture taker, making sure that all of the family history is documented, basically doing all the SI stuff that one would want a wife to do if you are the NE person, an NE dom, like an ENTP like myself. But the problem is, unlike the ISFJ, it's not their nature, it's their tool. Their nature is extroverted feelings. So what they really want is for you to be socially perfect as their mate, because they see you as part of their whole, their little display, their little exhibit that they're building. You see, ESFJs are building an exhibit. It's called Their Life as Presented to Others, and it has to be just so. Okay, you can't. One of the problems is sometimes people make this crazy mistake of thinking that it's okay to not have a sign hung right there. That's a mistake. You need to stop making that mistake. There does need to be a sign hung right there, and it should say something like, "When you reach for the stars, you'll always succeed," or something like that. Or it might say, "We're a nice, normal family," like that, because it's a little quirky, a little edgy, it's a little it's all FE all the time. And to the extent that it's not FE, it's managing the ESFJ in particular. ENFJ is very different than ESFJ. The ESFJ is on top of their shit. ENFJ is a mess. But anyway, the ESFJ thing is they're either sculpting their FE exhibit, which is ongoing and lifelong and involves lots of SI projects and little crafty shit, right? And then the other thing that they've got going on is they've got any in the third slot. So they kind of like the ENTP's lots of possibilities thing. They like it for a little while. They like it in the same way that I like to see somebody really killing it in FE. I like to watch speech interp events. A really good interp speech event. Maybe once, maybe occasionally. You know, I never want to watch it more than I want to watch debate, right? So when you're dealing with a dual who's got the 2 3s reversed, that's close. But FE in the dominant slot and FE in the third slot, that causes problems. Because FE is a particularly expectation-laden function. So the wife ends up, it could be the husband, I guess. It's usually going to be ENTP male, ESFJ woman, right? But then the wife's gonna be like, well, it's critically important to me that you perform socially as I want you to. But they don't have TI in the fourth slot. So if you're saying to them something like, look, this is going to work well, but you have to be willing to take some risk here. You have to understand that when we first walk away from this, people may have the wrong impression. But it's okay because we're setting something up here. Now, the reveal later will cause as sort of an avalanche of extra shit to happen. Well, that's not going to fly with the FE-driven wife. Even if she has possibilities in the third slot, it's too risky for her. She's very much committed to the safe route. And she's very much certain that the ENTP's Facebook posts are bad. And they need to be taken down right now. Very, very sure of that. Now, the thing is, what they do for each other, ultimately... I'm not biased, I'm experienced. It's a difference. What they do for each other is this. What the ENFJ does for ESFJ does for the ENTP is quite obvious. She takes care of him. What the ENTP is supposed to do for the ESFJ is to do the thinking, basically, and to be the it's like one thing you wouldn't call an ESFJ is clever, right? So, which does not mean they're dumb. They're not dumb at all. Candace is not dumb.
Oh yeah, I get it.
But she's not clever in any way, and she doesn't want to be clever, and she kind of hates cleverness a little bit. So what the ENTP is supposed to do is to mix with that if they're going to be in that relationship and somehow make cleverness and FE work together, blah, 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 blah. But the ESFJ won't ever trust the ENTP enough to guide her because she's so certain about the FE stuff and the whole idea of like, well, let's play around with being okay with making not such a good impression for a little while is incomprehensible. So it's really hard for her to get what she's supposed to get out of it. Plus, because they have TI in the fourth slot, they're not good at coming to understand that they need to use their TI more, because that requires them to use their TI. So there's certain limits on their self-understanding, and they're very cake and eat it too people. They don't quite understand when they can't have it both ways, and because they're sure that having it both ways is best for their understanding of harmony or their understanding of good or whatever, you know. But they do tend to be a little cake and eat too. They're great. If you stumble onto a ESFJ wife and you're an ENTP, make it work. It's worth it for sure. It's close enough. But you got to be I would say, okay, number one rule when you start that marriage. Don't be an alcoholic for like years and years and years of it, okay? That's probably a good thing to avoid because then they don't trust you at all and then you're really fucked. I mean, you can't do anything about it because they don't trust you for good reason, but even when they no longer have good reason, they're not TI is not high enough for them to rely on logical conclusions to convince them their mistrust is no longer needed. And that's my thoughts on ESFJ and ENTP. If anybody else would like to add some thoughts, I'd love to hear them. Okay, that's it for this episode of Talking with Famous People, in which we covered the ESFJ and ENTP personality type combination, intertype relation, socionics thing. Thanks for watching.